Back again, people. It is breaking news. Liverpool part ways with Arne Slot, and we are here to dissect, not too deep, but we are here to go into it very slightly. We'll come back later on and do a deep dive into this whole saga. Now, some people are happy, others believe that it should have been done earlier. So this is a wrong decision. Others also believe that, okay, we were told that he wasn't going to be sacked. So what is your immediate reaction? Are you excited about the news? And also, most importantly, were you expecting this at this point?
I wasn't expecting it at this point. I mean, all the reports that were coming out before the season ended were indicating towards Arne Slot carrying on next season. And if you listen to his presses, it looked like he was fully confident that he will be the manager of Liverpool for the 2026-2027 next season, where he constantly spoke about Liverpool fans underestimating what the transfer really can do to add up in the transfer. He constantly talked about the summer transfer window and Liverpool bringing new players in. So it looked like the board he was on the same page with the board and everything was going to be fine from the looks of it. So it is a bit surprising to me that this has come, especially at this time. But I think someone drew my attention to something, and I think that was something that we may have overlooked. Normally, when the season ends like that, and Mohamed Salah, Robertson were leaving, they all gave speeches. If you looked very closely, Arne Slot wasn't on the pitch during the time Salah and Robertson were speaking to the crowd. Arne Slot was sat in the dugout. Normally, they would have allowed him to speak and speak to the fans and promise them that everything was going to be fine next season. But they didn't let him speak. It was at the end of the season where players, Salah was leaving. There was a farewell for him. Normally, the manager of the football club would have been allowed to speak to the fans, but he wasn't. He was sat in the dugout all the way through. And I think that was an indication of this man will be out of the door. But maybe most of us didn't really
But
pay attention to it at the time.
don't you think that would be reading a bit too much into it, because we had a very poor season. The fans turned against the manager. It wasn't a good relationship between the manager and the fans. So I think they probably didn't want to risk having the manager speak to the fans and hearing boos and all that. The manager himself also didn't want to speak, I think, to the fans, because he thought he had disappointed the fans. He himself was disappointed. So at the end of the day, for me, I didn't want to hear the manager speak. In fact, I didn't want to hear anybody speak. For me, we should have just ended the game and everybody walks off the pitch. We go home. We wait for next season, because there was nothing to speak about. Nothing. I wasn't interested in hearing anybody speak, to be honest with you. Even the interviews Robertson and Salah did, I wasn't even interested in hearing that, because it was an atrocious season, a disappointing season, and they all should be held accountable. Every single person, not just Arne Slot. So what are you going to say to me? You've disappointed the whole team throughout the season. So there is nothing. I don't want to hear anything. I just want to see action on the pitch, winning games, playing well. For me, that is the most important thing. The speeches and all that. I think, yeah, when things are going well, when we are winning, yes, we all like the speeches. But when things are not going well, who wants to hear a speech? Nobody, really, right? So I think maybe that is why he didn't speak. But for me, I didn't really expect this news, because second of all, let me ask you, were you or how do you call it? Were you really expecting that if they were going to sack him, they were going to sack him now instead of during the season, or give him some part of next season?
Yeah, like we spoke about before, my thinking or my feeling was that if they would sack him, they should sack him before the next season starts. And so this is a really good timing for the sack. because it means that we get things in place. A new player that will be coming into the door will know that they are coming and there's a new manager in there who will be a bit more stable for the season ahead. But new players coming in would maybe probably have second thoughts about the manager and his future at the football club. If we start the season and 5-10 games in, we are losing games, the club will be in turmoil at that point. So I think the timing is fine for me. At the end of the season, we get more time to appoint a new manager. The new manager has even already been appointed. And I think that in terms of Xabi Alonso, from how everything has gone, it looks as if the hierarchy actually didn't want Xabi Alonso for the job. Because if they did, they could have just told Xabi Alonso to just hold on for a few days. And then they would basically just announce him as the next manager. He should just hold on. But
So the question that the question that I even wanted to ask you earlier is that do you think they knew they were going to sack him now, or they just made the decision recently in the last few days? Because I am thinking that the decision was made in the last few days, and probably this decision didn't come from Richard Hughes. It came from the owners, the people above Richard Hughes. For me, Richard Hughes wouldn't have
yeah,
sacked him, because all the briefings that we were getting from the journalists close to Liverpool, James Pearce, Paul Joyce, all those guys, Louis Steele, was that Arne Slot was going to stay. Now, just in the last few hours is when we've had this news. And for me, it is shocking. That is why it is shocking. It is shocking because all the briefings from the Liverpool related journalists, right, Ian Doyle and all those people, were that Arne Slot was going to stay put. And I think those briefings were coming from Richard Hughes. Now that we've seen that Arne Slot has been sacked, I think that there has been an external hand that has really come down upon both Richard Hughes and Arne Slot. And that is why we are seeing Arne Slot gone. So I don't think they had the idea that they were going to sack Arne Slot before Xabi Alonso was appointed at Chelsea. I don't think so.
yeah, I think you make a good point, because if you look at the round table that he did in January, that round table really spoke to me that these guys are not willing to budge in right now. They are willing to hold on to him as long as possible and hoping that things will get better. Evidently, it didn't. So yeah, I think I'm on board with exactly what you're saying, that this was a last minute call, and that if they knew the manager would be leaving, probably they would have spoken to Xabi Alonso.
Yeah, I also think that the owners didn't want to jump in the middle of the season. They wanted to give him up to the end of the season, see if there was going to be some sort of revival towards the end of the season. I think they were hoping for that, just like I myself was hoping for, and some Liverpool fans were hoping for, that Arne Slot would be able to turn it around. He didn't, and I think that is why he got the sack. Now, let's quickly move on to who is coming in. Andoni Raiola. It is almost set in stone that he's going to come in.
Yeah.
What
It's
is
a
your
very
feeling
good.
about it?
I've spoken with you about Andoni Raiola, and I think that one thing that I told you about was about his football and his philosophy and the way he plays the game. The one thing that I like about his method is its intensity, and that is the one thing we have lacked basically throughout the whole season: intensity, and how drilled he puts his boys through in training and things like that. And I think that is one thing we've lacked, and that is basically, I would say, a bit of an identity that we've picked up from Jurgen Klopp. And so that is a good thing that I think he can bring to the team. The thing that I'm worried about is the step up from Bournemouth to Liverpool. He has to be more, he has to improve his own man management abilities, the ability to go again every 3 days instead of every 7 days like he had at Bournemouth. Now he'll be playing the Champions League, facing top managers who would give him a run for his money in terms of in-game tactics and things like that. And now becoming a Liverpool manager, when you go 16 games unbeaten at Bournemouth, we praise you for it. But at Liverpool, the final details will be how many games did you win in that 16 game unbeaten? They won 8 and drew 8. That wouldn't be good enough at Liverpool. We want to win more. So the standard that he was being judged by at Bournemouth for going 16 games unbeaten and doing a good job, it wouldn't be a good job at Liverpool. The narrative would be he has drawn 8. He's drawn half of the games, which isn't good enough for Liverpool. So that step up is what I am hoping he'll be able to bridge in terms of his ability to win more games that he draws, like he did at Bournemouth. But his trajectory as a manager, coming in from the La Liga to Bournemouth, his first 5-6 games, he didn't win a single one. He drew almost all of them. Then gradually he started to get into shape, get into the grips of the Premier League and what it's about. So he has improved as a manager. And I hope that if he comes in, he will be able to improve a lot more. And that would mean that Liverpool will bring back that sort of the energy and intensity that we lacked throughout the whole season. He'll be able to bring that back to Liverpool. I don't know. What do you think about him and also his ability to improve play? Because I think that is also another thing that is one of his hallmarks as a coach, aside the intensity that he brings to the game, his ability to improve players.
There's no doubt about Andoni Raiola's style of play. There's no doubt that he's going to give us exciting football. I have no doubt whatsoever about that. But there are at least two problems that I find with Andoni Raiola. And I'm not very confident about the long-term future of Liverpool if we appoint him. The first thing is the pedigree he's bringing. What is the pedigree he's bringing? Has he competed in Europe before? And I don't remember him getting to any final, competing to win, even the Conference League. He doesn't have that experience. So doing well with Bournemouth and going 18 games unbeaten at Bournemouth is very different from doing it at Liverpool. It is very different. The second thing that I'm worried about is his injury record. The injury record is absolutely atrocious. Even when you look at Bournemouth alone, it is not good enough.
Bournemouth
What it
that
means
plays
is
once
that,
every 7 days.
yes, what it means is that the Liverpool squad that will be given to him cannot be the squad that we have currently or the one that Arne Slot had to work with. We have to give him at least 23 players who everybody can start. I have no doubt that he will improve players, like using academy players and all that. He will be able to do that. So that might maybe sort of reduce the effect of injuries on the Liverpool squad. But we need to have a bigger squad, a much, much bigger squad. And for me, his appointment would mean that this summer is going to have to be a very, very big summer. We need to bring in at least 5 players or 6 players.
Yeah.
If it is Andoni Raiola who is stepping in, then we need that number of new players, because it's going to be a really hard season next season. Because unless, of course, Liverpool decide that, okay, we are going to just compete for the domestic trophies. But for Europe, if we have any sight on winning the Champions League in the next 2 to 3 years, Andoni Raiola is going to it's going to be difficult with Andoni Raiola. I'm not going to lie. For me, I'm looking at Liverpool at the level of Manchester City, at the level of Madrid and PSG. If that is where we see ourselves, I think this appointment is a bit underwhelming for me.
Yeah. It's very hard to dispute what you are saying, because he's competing at the top level. It's very different from being a good manager at Bournemouth. Thomas Frank is a good case in point, doing a very good job at Brentford, but not being able to do it. And that was even Tottenham Hotspur, not a top club like Liverpool.
Yeah.
I think maybe the only thing would be that we have seen managers who have been able to make that step up. The question is, can the step up be enough? We've seen Enzo Maresca do quite well coming from Leicester, never played in the Champions League, but even his Champions League campaign, he played in the Conference League that year. Conference League is not really the standard. When he played in the Champions League, we saw him struggle a bit when he faced some of the top sides. So there are a few intangibles and
Yeah,
question marks and
for
gray
me,
areas
another
with
thing
this
is that
appointment. Yeah,
I would have preferred someone like Oliver Glasner to Andoni Raiola.
yeah,
I would have, if not for the style of play. I
mm,
like the style of play of Andoni Raiola. It is front-footed. It is high intensity. That is what we can get behind as a crowd, as a Liverpool crowd. That is what we are used to.
and he has more.
But when we want to really focus on
Yeah,
winning trophies at the end of every season, I feel like if we had Glasner in the door, Glasner will win something every season. He will
yeah,
win something at the end of, and he will compete in the Premier League as well. I'm not too sure about Andoni Raiola. Andoni Raiola may compete for the Premier League, but are we sure he's going to win the FA Cup, Carabao Cup, and possibly put us on a run in the Champions League?
yeah,
I'm not sure. I have no confidence in that. He has to prove it to me. Until he does that, and I think Glasner had proven that. He has
yeah,
proven that beyond reasonable doubt.
yeah,
He's a trophy winning manager.
yeah,
Forget about the style of play. Forget about the three back. He is going to win you something.
yeah.
And for me, I think that is the kind of managers that
And
Liverpool
and
need,
he always
because
punches above his weight as well.
always way above his weight. He punches way up. He gets more out of the squad,
Yeah,
way more out of the squad than the sum of its parts.
and
So I
his
think
management
that
of the
is why I
squad, his
think,
injury record is quite good as well
yeah,
in
his
terms of
injury
Crystal
record is
Palace. Yeah,
also not too bad. So I'm not saying we should have gone for Glasner, but I'm looking for a manager who will put us in the position to be winning trophies. For me, it is about winning the trophies. It is about winning the trophy. It is about being defensively solid. And I like that about Glasner too. Defensive solidity.
yeah,
No watertight, nothing goes through it. That is what I want. I think we all want to see good football like under Klopp. No, but for me, if it is front footed and intense and it still gives the opponent the opponent is able to create chances and get opportunities, I don't like it. I don't
yeah,
like it anymore. I've seen enough under Klopp, and under Klopp after 4 or 5 seasons, I was fed up with that. I wanted us to play more pragmatic football. I wanted us to be more defensively solid and still be scoring goals. I don't think Klopp was able to do that. He was able to score goals. It was
yeah.
intense, but we were
So it's a hard
defensively
balance to find.
atrocious. It is a hard balance to find it. I think a coach like Glasner would have given us that, even though the football wouldn't have been too exciting. And I think at some point you need to accept that. That is how come Arsenal have won the Premier League, and they
Yeah,
possibly could win the Champions League tonight. So I think we'll end it here. Thank you, everyone. We'll get more deep dive into this issue later on, and I'm sure we'll have some more news coming up about how Anna Slot was sacked, how the decision was arrived at, and all that. So we'll see you later on. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. See you.